What's up, YouTube? So it is a chilly, snowy, but very beautiful day here in Buffalo, New York, and today we are bringing this channel back to its original roots with season number 2 of photo vlogs. So the plan for today is I'm going to link up with my friend Nick. We're going to head down to downtown Buffalo where we've gotten like 8 or 12 inches of snow over the past couple of days, and we're going to do some photography. I don't think there's going to be a ton of people outside just because the weather isn't ideal. It's a Saturday, and downtown Buffalo is typically pretty dead on the weekends, but we have some new gear to test out today. This right here is the Leica M-D Typ, and I'm calling this thing a digital film camera. And the reason I say that is because it is styled identically, almost identically. There's a couple things that are a little bit different to the old school Leica cameras that everybody knows and loves, like the M5, the M6, the M7, and whatever other variants there are. And the reason I say that it's styled identically to those is because of this right here. There is no LCD screen whatsoever on this camera. It is literally, not literally, but almost identical to old school Leica film cameras. This thing is awesome, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. So first things first, let's head downtown and let's do some shooting. It's a little bit chilly outside, so we're gonna switch right now between some GoPro footage. As you can see, I'm strapped right here with the GoPro chest mount, and then Nick is gonna shoot some behind the scenes of me on this camera. And so we're gonna start doing a little bit of walking around the city. There's like a car show today, so there's a bunch of people downtown actually, which is a surprise, so that's good. Hopefully we'll do a little bit of like traditional street photography, but if not, we're gonna do some snowy cityscape type stuff. Of course, all on the new Leica M-D. And just so you guys know, I'm using right now the 50mm f2 Zeiss ZM lens, I think it's called. So the Leica Summicron 50mm f2 is like $2,000 or something absurd like that. So I didn't go with the Leica lens. I'm actually a big fan of Zeiss lenses anyways, so I'm rocking the Zeiss 50mm right now, and that's what we're gonna be using all day today. So let's jump into some GoPro footage and some behind the scenes footage. Let's do it. Hands are absolutely frozen right now, but we're walking around. I think we got a couple pretty cool pictures. Nick actually pointed out this scene right here. So as you can see behind us, there's like some cool layering with all these buildings. And so what I tried to do is I got this car in the foreground that's completely covered in snow. I got that right at the bottom of my frame. And then I got kind of the layers of these buildings with the HSBC building, which if you know anything about Buffalo, the HSBC building is like an iconic Buffalo building. It's the tallest building in Buffalo. Pretty cool. And then you can see the street lamp right here. I used that kind of as like the top of the frame to contain everything else. And so again, don't know what that shot looks like yet, but I think it came out pretty cool. I used the shutter priority, or not shutter priority, aperture priority mode on this, so automatic shutter speed, and I'm using a 0.7 plus exposure compensation just to make sure, because there's a lot of snow here. Oftentimes it'll underexpose the image. If I overexpose by 2/3 of a stop, it usually comes out a little bit better. So this is what the photo looks like. Hope it came out good. Can't tell yet, but I think it's pretty cool. On to the next one. Just shot a bunch of photos of Nick in here. This is kind of a cool area because there's a whole bunch of different colors. There's like this blue over here, this red, there's yellow up here, and then if it was a nice blue sky right now, it would probably be a really cool spot, but unfortunately, no blue sky today. It's super cloudy. Nick was just making a comment that I thought was super interesting because this camera, for some reason, I just like the photos that come out of it more than I do with other cameras. And it's not because they're objectively any better than the ones that come out of my EOS R. Quite frankly, the image quality that comes out of the EOS R is much better, but the process of shooting photos on this camera is just more fun for some reason. And as a result, I like the photos more. It makes absolutely no sense, but we're sitting out here talking, and like these photos that we've been taking aren't necessarily the most exciting photos we've ever taken. The conditions are not amazing, but Nick and I are both super excited for one reason or another to get these photos on the computer and check them out. Just because for one reason or another, shooting photos on this particular camera is just fun, and I don't know, it just makes the whole process a little bit more exciting. Alright guys, it's the next day. I just finished editing all the footage that you just saw, and I want to talk real quick both about this camera right here as well as the photo vlog series itself. So if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that about 1.5 years ago I kicked this channel off and I was making a ton of videos that I called photo vlogs. Since then I've kind of deviated away from making that sort of video, but I think that I really want to get back into it. I really enjoy making that type of video where I just kind of, like you guys just saw, document my process of making photos throughout the day, whether I go out for an entire day of shooting or just like an hour or so of shooting like I did today. If you enjoy this style of video and this is what you want to see, definitely give the video a thumbs up. It'll let me know that you guys want to see more content like this, and it'll get me out making more of these videos. So definitely give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and hit that subscribe button down below if you want to see future content. Also, I have a playlist on my channel, so if you want to see my past like 30 or so photo vlogs that I've made, definitely click through those and watch any of those that you might be interested in. Alright, so now let's talk about this camera. So this camera is absolutely awesome, and so there's a couple different reasons why I bought it. Number one is because I've always wanted a Leica M camera. I've just been fascinated and enamored by them ever since I essentially realized that they existed. And so part of the reason that I got this one in particular is A, because I really wanted a Leica, and B, because I really love shooting film and the process associated with shooting film, like going out and just focusing on the photographs themselves, composing them properly, exposing them properly, but not really being able to see the final result until you develop the image. However, at this stage in my life, I don't really have the time or, quite frankly, the patience to develop film, scan it, and all the stuff associated with film photography. So with this camera, I'm able to get almost an identical experience to shooting film without having to develop the film, scan it, and all of that stuff. This camera in particular forces me to focus on actually making photos, just making sure that the exposure is right, making sure the composition is right, but not really constantly be thinking about whether or not the photo actually came out good. I go out, I make sure that the photo is composed properly and exposed properly, I take the image and then I move on to the next one, rather than constantly looking at the back of my screen, which there is no screen on this, as we've talked about. It makes me focus on actually just taking the photos rather than constantly worrying about the images themselves. And over the past year or so, I've had opportunities to shoot on so many awesome modern digital cameras that have incredible autofocus features, super high resolutions, ridiculous low light performance, and all of those things. This camera doesn't really have any of those things. However, it's the simplicity that Leica brought into this camera that really inspires me to go out and shoot with it, and really makes the process of photography with this camera a hell of a lot more fun. With this camera, Leica focused solely on simplicity. The only controls that you interact with are the aperture, which is controlled on the lens, the shutter speed, which is on this dial right here, and then the ISO, which is this dial back here. And then in addition to that, there is an exposure compensation dial. You hold down this button on the top, and then you can spin this back wheel to the right or to the left if you want to get the exposure compensation up or down if you're using aperture priority mode. But besides that, there is no digital interaction with this camera whatsoever. And I think it's that simplicity that helps me to just focus on photography and really enjoy the process, rather than digging through menus, making sure my autofocus settings are right, making sure that whatever, my drive modes and things of that nature are all correct. There's only 3 settings to worry about: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. And it makes you just focus on actually taking photos rather than futzing around with menus and what have you. Since getting this camera a few weeks ago, I've found myself just taking photos almost every single day of the mundane things that go on in my life. Whether it's taking photos of my dogs just around the house, whether it's taking photos of my friends playing pool, or whatever we're doing. I've really been enjoying using this camera, and it just makes shooting those mundane things throughout life or whatever, it makes it more enjoyable. I don't know what it is. And in addition to it just being a little bit more fun with this camera, because of its form factor and the way it looks, I don't really know what it is. It's like less intimidating for people when I'm taking photos of them. So like when I'm taking photos of my friends and family, they notice much less that I'm actually taking photos of them with this camera rather than when I'm using my Canon EOS R with the gigantic 50mm f1.2 lens. It's just less intimidating, and as a result, I get like more genuine, natural reactions from people rather than them just being like concerned that they're getting photos taken of them. I'm gonna spend a fair amount of time with this camera prior to making like any sort of review on it. I kind of wanted to just make like this impressions video and also do a photo vlog video with it today. But the one thing that I do want to note is that it is not the perfect camera for all situations. I mean, the one main thing with Leica M cameras is that they do not have any sort of autofocus whatsoever. It's a complete manual focus camera, so it's certainly not perfect for any sort of moving subjects, sports photography, or anything like that. Thankfully, I don't really shoot a lot of that stuff, so it works well for me. But I mean, there are a number of other caveats with the camera as well. Secondly, the ISO performance in comparison to a lot of modern day cameras is nowhere near as good. Once you start getting up towards like 3200 and above ISO, the images don't have nearly as much latitude in editing as like my Canon EOS R or an A7 III or anything like that would have, even though it is a full frame sensor. The image quality is beautiful, to be completely honest, but it's definitely not as versatile and as good as super modern cameras like the EOS R I'm shooting on right now, or the A7 III, Panasonic cameras, and all of those things that I've used in the past. Although the camera has a ton of limitations like no autofocus, not the greatest low light performance, and no screen on the back of it to preview your images, I think it's the fact that it doesn't have those capabilities and the fact that it has quite a few limitations that makes it more enjoyable to use. Like I mentioned earlier, the simplicity of this camera is really, in my opinion, what makes it awesome. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today. Thank you, as always, for watching my videos. If you enjoy this style of videos and enjoy the fact that I'm bringing these photo vlogs back, definitely give the video a thumbs up. It'll give me the indication that you guys want to see more of this stuff, and I'll definitely be pumping out more of this style of content. Thanks again, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.